start talking about a new skill from our story that we read yesterday. What story did we read yesterday, Manny?
Oliver K. Woodman.
Oliver K. Woodman. Thank you, Manny. And tell me, how is Oliver K. Woodman different than stories we've been reading in our Journeys book this entire school year? Avery?
It's written in letters, not like paragraphs.
Yeah, it's written in letter form, right? It does still have a sequence of events. Remember we talked about yesterday, remember sequence of events? It still has a sequence of events like normal stories we'd work on, but this one is all a series of letters. Remember, each page looks like this, like it's written on loose leaf paper. See that, Logan? So I want you to take out your books, and I'm going to introduce you to our skill, but I need you to kind of figure out where we're going here, okay? All I'm going to do is read 2 letters to you, and we're going to make some observations about it. So can you please open to page 291? 291. Manny, thank you. Roman, wow, you guys are quick. Simon, thank you. Okay, and friends, on page 291, while you're still getting there, let me ask you, who wrote this letter on page 291? Steven?
Some Bernard Grape,
Bernard Grape. And what is Bernard Grape's job?
a lawyer.
He's a lawyer. So what do we know about lawyers? Are they bimbos? Are they kind of like silly, act like circus clowns? What are they like? Ian?
They're people who do stuff with the judge.
Good. And they're usually very, what, Brayden?
Smart.
Very smart. So do you think that he's going to talk in his letter like somebody who's pretty intelligent? Do you think? Let's read and let's kind of feel out how he talks. Let's get a handle on what he sounds like, okay? It says, to Raymond Johnson regarding Mr. Oliver K. Woodman. I love how Avery and Quinn are following along with her finger. Good idea, because this is quite a few paragraphs here. Let's read a little bit about it. He says, our family, currently on vacation, picked up the above-named person in what I thought was a misguided goodwill gesture. Little did I know how lucky that gesture would be. Wow, what do you think of that paragraph? Would you talk like that if you were writing a letter? Brayden?
Yeah.
You think you would talk like that, Simon?
No.
I don't know. Good, misguided goodwill gesture. Whoa, that's 3 words that we might not even know here in 3rd grade. He sounds really, really fancy, doesn't he? Well, let's turn to the next page, page 292. When Tamika writes a letter. And on page 292, Edwin, who's Tamika writing to?
Her Uncle Ray.
Uncle Ray. And Edwin, can you read the first couple lines? I'll stop you whenever I'm ready to move on.
Chester came to dinner. Oliver. He is so much fun here camping in the backyard. Tonight, I hear he's not scared of anything. I'm so glad he'll be there. Tomorrow at the river, I'll let him hold my fishing pole while I go swimming.
Thank you, Edwin. And the last little paragraph says, guess what else? Daddy and Mama talked it over. We're coming to your house next month. And we'll bring Oliver home. Isn't that wonderful? Now, our first letter, Brock, we were on page 291, friend. And we reviewed that letter we learned about yesterday that the lawyer wrote to Uncle Ray. And what did it sound like? How would you summarize what that letter sounded like? Bella? Fancy. He used some big words that we aren't even really quite sure what they mean, really. We had to talk about that yesterday. Now, then on page 292, Brock, thanks for getting there with us. What does that letter sound like from Tamika to Uncle Ray? What did that sound more like? Quinn?
Exciting.
She was excited, yeah. Did she use words that we're maybe more familiar with, Wes?
Most of the words were punctuation.
She had a lot of punctuation. She did. She used shorter sentences, a lot of punctuation. Good observation. Brayden?
It's kind of like 11, but not really.
Yeah, it's her family number. Now, if you were to write a letter to me, let's pretend I leave tomorrow, and you wanted to write a letter to me. Do you think you would write more like that first letter on page 291? Or more like the second letter on page 292, Harper?
Second letter.
Do you agree with Harper? Do you think you'd write more like the second letter? Yeah. Would you use huge words like that just writing to me, Miss Phelps? Probably not. What if you, like how Gabe and Roman, they like to play Roblox after school? Gabe and Roman, do you talk really fancy to each other when you play Roblox? No.
I mean sometimes.
Now, how would you, which one of these letters, the first one on page 291, or the second one on page 292, would you talk like if you were writing to the president? Steven?
First one.
The first one. Would you want to sound your very best? Put your best foot forward. Sound as fancy as possible, as smart as possible? I think so too. So friends, close your books. Thank you for checking that out with me. And let's look up at the board. This skill that you just explained to me, because you did the hard work. I didn't do it. You did it. You told me everything I needed to know. Our skill that we're going to talk about in our story is formal versus informal language. Have you ever heard of that before? No, kind of new. Does anybody know what the word formal means? Formal. Sometimes they're in college, if any of you have siblings in college, there are dances that are called formals. I don't know where else you would know that word from. Simon, do you know what formal means?
Important.
Important, yeah, that's really good. Ian? Normal, not quite like normal, it does rhyme. I like what Simon said. And remember how we use the fiction equals what? Gracie? Fake. I like to remember formal starts with an F. Formal is like fancy. Formal is kind of like fancy, official, professional, okay? So if that's what formal means, what do you think informal means? Manny?
Not as fancy.
Not as fancy. Do you agree with Manny? Manny's absolutely correct. That prefix, like we worked on last week, that prefix in tells us kind of the opposite of the word that follows. So informal is not as fancy. Now look at this conversation down here between these two clowns. Do you see these two horses? This guy says, "Hey dude, what's happening?" This one says, "I'm very well, thank you for asking. How have you been?" Somebody tell me which one of those two do you think is formal? Who's talking more formal, Roman? The second one. I'm very well, thank you for asking. Do you agree with Roman? I do. That sounds much more professional. If you were talking to Mr. Dugan, would you say something like that? "Mr. Dugan, I'm doing well, thank you." Would you go up to Mr. Dugan and say, "Hey dude, what's happening?" Would you do that? Oh my gosh, no. If you did, me and Mrs. R would have to crawl in a hole and hide. We'd be so embarrassed. So, if on the right, that's our formal conversation, what is going on the left? What would we call that? He's having a what conversation? Lily? Informal. Lily's absolutely correct. So we're going to learn a little bit about formal and informal language today. Those are very big words, big terms, for things you probably use all the time and you may not even know. So what are we going to learn today, friends? Somebody read me that first star, both sentences. Let me get out of your way so you can read. Logan, what are we learning today?
What is formal language?
Okay.
And informal language.
Do you feel like you might already have a little bit of an idea? Okay, yeah, good. I'm glad you have that foundation, and we'll talk about that more. Now I need somebody to read me the second bullet point of where we are going today. Where are we going with our learning, Wes?
When do I use formal or informal language?
Ooh, when do I use each of those? Because did you know in your brains, you are so smart that you switch back and forth between formal and informal all the time, hundreds of times a day, and you don't even realize it. Did you know that? Bella, you didn't know that?
Yeah.
You do. Your brain is so smart, it knows on its own. Ooh, I better use some formal, some fancy. Good morning, Miss Phelps. Good morning, Mrs. Radosevich. How are you today? And then your brain knows, this is more of an informal situation. Like when I see you guys like this, right inside recess, and he's like, "Hey, Steven, what you doing? It's almost your birthday. I can't wait." That's more informal, right? Yes, Manny.
If you talk to a person that's older than you, I think you should talk formal.
Oh.
Like,
Can someone tell me what Manny just said? What did he just say? Bella?
if they're like an older person, you kind
you telling me, Manny and Bella, that like somebody who's older than you would talk more in like that fancy way than your friend? So you would use informal language with your friend, is that right? Ooh, keep that idea in your brain as we move on today. Brayden agrees, yes. Manny, you beat me to the punch. That's awesome. I need you friends to take one, pass it down to this packet I'm handing out. It has cute little owls on the front. Mrs. R and I have been excited about this. Quinn, can you just set one on Gabby's desk, friend? This packet has all kinds of information about formal and informal language. And whenever you get the packet, please put your name on the front, okay? Because we are going to use this. We might not finish this all today. Can you put one on Liam's desk, buddy? Yes, Gabe, do you have a question?
Just like informal language, whenever my friend Roman joins me in Roblox in one of my games, I sometimes greet him with informal language.
You sometimes greet him with informal language.
Just like what that one said on the left, whatever.
Yeah,
Is
right.
it
Like
right?
he said, hey dude, what's happening?
Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah, we do tend to use informal language with our friends. I agree with that. Okay, friends, do we have all the packets passed down?
No.
Gabe, are we waiting on you? Oh, take one, Gabe. Put one at your desk. Oh.
You don't have to walk around.
Thank you for that thought, Gabe. I appreciate how you were going to pass it out to your friends, but just make sure you're ready to go. Names on top, right? Walking around, checking for names. Okay, friends, turn to this page right here. The top says, what is formal language? What is formal language? Well, we kind of talked about it, but let's work on this some more. It says formal language is the type of language we use when we talk to a certain type of person or at a certain type of event. Gabe, I need you on what is the formal language page? First page right here, friend, okay? You use formal language when you speak to teachers, principals, police officers, and other important people in a position of power or authority. And like Manny said, most of those people I just listed are people who are older than you. They're adults. Formal language is also used when giving speeches or reports. When you use formal language, you are speaking in, big word here, grammatically correct English. Using slang, what's slang? Give me an example of a slang word, Roman. Did you forget? Yeah. Steven?
I got one sentence. What's up, brother?
What's up, brother? That would be slang, right? Slang are things that you're not going to find in the dictionary. Are you going to find the word dude in the dictionary?
No.
No, that's an example of slang. Using slang or abbreviations. Somebody give me an abbreviation that we use a lot when we text or in emails or you might see on the internet. Ellie?
Hi, what are you doing today?
Not quite. I like, hi, what are you doing today? You're getting to the right answer there, but abbreviations are not words. Bella?
Are they like periods?
What if I wanted to tell somebody I was laughing on the internet? There's an abbreviation that people use frequently that means like, oh, I'm totally laughing right now. Brock?
LOL.
LOL?
I have another one.
What?
IDK.
IDK, OMG. What if Mrs. R said, oh, Ian, could you tell me the answer to 4 times 2? He said, Mrs. R, IDK. Was that formal at all? What would happen if you said that to a teacher? IDK. Probably not be good for you, would? No. What's up, Manny?
IDK means I don't know.
It does. Good. Abbreviations, they stand for words, but they're very informal to use. Okay, let's keep reading. Using slang or abbreviations is not acceptable when one is speaking formally. Formal language can be spoken or written. Okay, so can somebody read for me under examples of formal language? Read the first one. I see quotation marks, so that means somebody is saying this quote. Lily, can you read the first one for me?
Are you going to go to? Are you going to go to? Are you going to go to the new movie that is opening this weekend?
Good. Asking somebody. I could ask Brayden. Brayden, are you going to go to that new movie that's coming this weekend? Does that sound pretty formal, pretty fancy? Yeah. I said that with grammatically correct English. That means using words full words, full sentences. Edwin, can you read me the second example right here?
I really like these nice tennis shoes that my mother bought me
Try this last part again. That my mother.
That my mother bought for me last night.
Good. I really like these new tennis shoes. Formal? Do you agree?
Yeah.
Sounds pretty formal, right? I would feel comfortable saying that to an adult, to a police officer, to a teacher. Gabe, can you read that last example, that last quote?
I'm going to clean my room before going out with my friends.
Good. Also seems pretty formal, right? Do you agree? Yeah. So now look up at the board here, friends. I have summarized what formal language means, okay? We read about it. We read quite a lot of words. So I wanted to summarize so you can get the big idea of what formal language is like. Formal language is used when speaking to teachers, principals, police officers, or other important people. Is that an important thing to know about formal language? Annie says yes. Either one of these are acceptable. Logan, do you think that's important to know?
Yep.
Yeah. Is it important to know that formal language is used when giving speeches or reports? Yeah. If you have to give a speech or a book report, you would want to use formal language, right, Gabe? Is it important to know that formal language needs to be grammatically correct English, full sentences, punctuation? Absolutely. Very, very, very important. And finally, is it important to know that you cannot use abbreviations or slang? That's a really important one, guys. No slang. The word gonna. Do you ever say gonna? I say gonna a lot.
I'm gonna do that.
I'm gonna go to the store.
Is
Is gonna a real word in English? No, let me tell you something. Gonna is two words put together. What two words put together is it? Gabe?
Gun and up.
No, that's two sounds. Brandon, what two words go together to make gonna? Going and Simon? Going to. I'm going to go to the store. We just speak so fast, we zip right over it, and somebody created the term, I'm gonna go, instead of saying going to. We cannot use gonna with formal language. Okay? Now flip to the next page. I lost my first packet. I don't know what I did with it. What is informal language? We learned about formal. Now let's talk about informal. Yes, Brock? Oh, okay, let's read. Informal language is the type of language you use when you talk to friends or people your own age. Now, as I was walking around, I saw a friend underlining key ideas. For informal language, as I'm reading, on your own, just underline things that you think might be important. We're going to use that later. Okay, so everybody should have a pencil in their hands. And you choose what's important. I'm not going to stop and talk about it. I want you to make that decision. Yes, Manny? I'ma, yep. I'ma gets said too. Like I'm going to, I'ma do, yep, absolutely. So I'm going to start over, friends, because I did ask you to start underlining. So let's do that now. Informal language is the type of language you use when you talk to friends or people your own age. You use informal language when text messaging, posting on Facebook, or writing letters to friends. When you are with your friends, you are using informal language most of the time. Informal language can be spoken or written. I'm going to give you a minute to underline some things you think are important, okay? Now, let's read the examples of informal language. Hopefully you have some things highlighted. It looks like I'm seeing a lot of good things. Bella, read that first example. Are you going to see that new movie? Is that formal?
No.
Is it formal? Oh, Ellie says, What is it, Ellie?
I'm going to see that movie.
Good. That would be the formal version. This is informal. Can somebody read me that next line, Max?
I like these really cool kicks. My mom has them.
Would you, if you were talking to the president and he said, oh, I really like your shoes, Max, would you say, oh, these kicks are pretty cool? Would you say that? Oh, no, please, no, never say that. What about the third one? Oh gosh, this one gives me a headache. What is, Wayne, can you read this third one?
Yo, what's up?
Yo, what's up?
You have to say, yo, what's
Would
up?
you say that to the president?
Ah!
Yo, what's up? No, that's so
Yo, what's
informal.
up?
But I know you would never say that.
Yo,
You gotta
what's
say,
up?
yo, what's up?
Yo, what's up?
Yo,
Manny?
what's
I
up?
hear most of you say, yo, what's up?
Yep, that's very
Yo,
slang,
what's
right?
up?
Okay, friends, I have one more that I need someone to read. It's a little bit longer. That last one, Ellie, can you read that?
I'm gonna pick up heat in my room before I go hang out with my people.
No, whenever Miss Phelps says, hey peeps, because I do say that to you, am I using formal or informal language?
Wait, I'm a peep?
When I say peeps, am I using formal or informal language? Edwin?
Informal.
Informal, do you agree? Okay, friends, I asked you to do the big task of underlining because you are going to help me on this next slide. Uh-oh, where'd all my information go?
We're gonna write it.
You are. So, let me get back in here. I need your help. I need you to tell me if we were talking to a second grader about everything we learned in third grade, and you got to the topic of formal and informal language. How would you describe informal language to a second grader? Do you think they should read this paragraph? There might be words in here that they don't really know very well or aren't familiar with because you are a whole year ahead of them in school. So of course this paragraph is great for you, but probably not a second grader. So what are some key pieces of information you picked out and you underlined and you think a second grader must know this to understand formal language? Roman, we're not on the Venn diagram page, friend. Please turn back to what is informal language. Ellie, what is something we would need to include?
Informal language can be spoken or written.
Can be spoken or written. Do you agree that's important? Yeah, we can speak it or we can write it. Can be spoken or written. I agree, Ellie. Somebody tell me something else that you think must be included if you were teaching somebody. Gracie?
You use it for talking to your friends, people, your own age.
Used for talking to friends or people your own age. Do you agree with Gracie? Yes, that's huge, right? Our friends, our peers, we use a lot of informal language. Can I add something to our list? Okay. Let me see. Do you agree with what I wrote? Brayden says no. Oh, why? You use informal language. That's important to know, right?
No.
That's a key piece of information. You use it.
No.
How come that should not be included? Steven?
It's because like, they already know that. If you're talking about informal language, like if we weren't talking about informal language, like you talk it every single day.
Right.
Like,
When we're summarizing key points, do we need to include things that everybody pretty much already knows?
No.
No, we don't need to include those things that we call common sense, right? And if I just have a few bullet points, I don't want to waste one on that piece of information. That is definitely not the most important piece, is it? Max, can you tell me another?
You use it when you're posting on Facebook or writing letters to your friends.
Good. I know you guys probably don't have Facebook, but adults do not usually use formal language on Facebook. Kind of like I know you guys read some comments on YouTube. I don't think on YouTube people are saying, "Dear madam, dear sir." Did they say that on there? No, not even close. No. Yes, Simon. Oh, Simon has an example, friends. Let's let him talk. Stephen.
Informal language can be spoken or written.
Oh, we have that as the first one.
Oh.
Right up there, good. But you know what? Since you said that too, that must really mean that it is important, and I agree with you. So, do you feel like you have a good handle on formal and informal language? Oh, Brayden looks really confident. He's like, yes, for sure. Let me look around. I want to make sure everybody has something highlighted. Everybody was accountable, responsible. Oh, Logan started the Venn diagram. Friend, you are ahead. I love that you're excited about this, but wait just a minute, okay? It's okay. I'm glad you were ahead, not behind, right? Good. I see lots of people underline things that we included. I think I would have underlined the same things as you. Good. So flip to that next page, my friends. Oh, I was typing, wasn't I? Okay, and before we move on to our Venn diagram, which we are going to do with a partner, I want you to look up here at these 3 emojis I have. What does this emoji look like?
So sad.
What does he look like, Gabe?
He's super sad.
Terribly
And I
sad.
don't like looking at it. I like looking
Yeah,
at
kind of hard
that
to look
one.
at, right? He doesn't seem like he really knows what's going on.
I like
so well.
looking at the golden.
What about this guy? Harper?
Like,
Yeah, so-so. So-so, a good word to describe that emotion? Maybe, maybe not. What about this guy? Avery? Super confident about this. Avery knows where I'm going with this. Okay, friends, when I say go, we're all going to put our heads down, but not yet, because I still have to talk to you. If you feel like, when you think about informal and formal language, if you feel like you really, really understand what's going on, if you feel like, oh yeah, I think I could maybe help a 2nd grader with this, I feel like after our first day of learning this, I'm doing pretty well. I'm not an expert, because we're only on our first day, but I think I'm doing okay. You're going to give me this guy here, okay? And you're going to do that by using the number 5. 5 is the most fingers you have. It means you are feeling the best, okay? Practice, show me your 5. If you feel like you're doing okay at this today, you're going to put a 5 up when it's time to talk.
And that's
Okay.
3, right? And
This guy right here, Dave, you're 1 minute ahead of me, buddy. That guy right there, if you feel like him, or you're like, I don't really understand, maybe I only understand formal, but I do not understand informal. Or if you feel like maybe I understand informal, but I do not understand formal, you're going to give me a 3. Okay?
I knew it.
That means like, I don't know. And if you just feel like, I don't understand this, I don't understand this, I don't understand this, you would give me this guy, which would be a 1. But you know what? Every single one of you answered a question during this lesson. So I don't really expect any 1s. This is your answer. You're going to be truthful to yourself to let me know what we need to work on tomorrow. But I do not really think any of you seem or are acting like you're going to be at the 1 level, okay? So just a reminder, when we close our eyes, if you feel good about this, like you're ready to move on and do this Venn diagram, you're going to give me a 5. What about if you feel in the middle? Brayden? 3. And if you feel really terribly sad, Lily? 1. Okay, put your heads down. I want to see where we're at today. Okay, friends, if you, you know what? We'll do it all at once. Put your number up on your hand, either 5, 3, or 1 right now. Okay, Edwin, you got a number for us, friend? Ellie? Manny, you got a number, friend? Roman? I can't tell, buddy. You're kind of switching. Okay, friends, put your hands down. Thank you for your honesty. That helps Mrs. R and I know, what do we maybe need to work on a little bit more tomorrow or later? But we are not done with formal and informal language, okay? Turn to that bench. Oh, did I already tell you to turn there?
Yeah.
Oh, myself. Okay, I can't decide. Should you pick partners or should myself pick partners? Heads down, you can vote. Raise your hand if you want to pick your own partners. Okay, hands down. Raise your hand if you want me to pick your partners. It was an exact. It was 10 and 10.
You can pick us.
I'll pick partners.
When it was the time last time you let us?
Okay, Mrs. R, you can turn that off and I'm gonna